Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Decryption and I hope you are well. In the last medic minigame video, we made it so you can successfully get into the car, drive around, and it says at the top that you can start the minigame. We can press M and it'll start it, and we can press return to get back out of it and we can walk around. So it's coming along nicely, there's still loads of room for improvement. So in today's tutorial, what we're going to look over at doing is actually setting up the game loop. The actual getting into it and starting it, and we have to go to a location in order to complete the tasks. We're not going to make it so you pick the people up just yet, but the actual loop that drives the game. So let's get started. So one thing I want to clear up just before I jump into this is I remember when I was watching tutorials on stuff that I always wondered how people came up with things like how to design something, and I always thought they were just naturally good. Like most people do. And I want to prove to you that it's not always the case. Like some things, sure, you think about, you just click, that's it. You know what to do. However, this game loop that I want to do, the end goal of what I wanted for this tutorial was you get in and you start the minigame. Fine, it starts. And it pops up saying level 1, go and collect this many people, and a timer starts. Each time you pick up the people and take them to the place, like the hospital for instance, it goes up to the next level until you reach the final level. But there is loads of different ways we can do this. We can just create a blueprint to handle it, or a class in C++. We can use narrative quest in order to drive it as a quest, but then that's got its own caveats to it. So I was sat thinking for a while on what to do, and then I just basically started writing notes down. And anytime I came to a blocker, I saw if I could get around the blocker. So here are my notes here in Obsidian. I've noted down, this is the way I want it to go, is the medic minigame, it will progress via a quest in narrative. And I'm going to use narrative quest, but you can use any quest system you've got as long as you know how to use it. So each level is going to be its own singular task. And what I'm going to do is pass in the amount that needs to be done into that task. So, for example, the first level will be pick up 1, the second level will pick up 3, the third level will pick up 6, whatever we decide. Then each time we drop off a passenger, or in this tutorial when we just arrive at the location, we're just going to fire an event dispatcher off to say they've been dropped off. Equally, we're also going to connect to the NPCs on death, so if they die because they're bleeding, or if you run over them, kill them, whatever, then we can decide whether we want to fail the quest or just simply respawn them. We'll look at that in another tutorial. If you quit or fail the timer, then we just simply forget the quest, so it's like you've never done it. If you complete it, well then we can't just simply complete the task, because then you can never do it again. In narrative, you can only ever have one quest instance active. If you complete it, you can't complete it again, you've already completed it. So you have to forget it. But then if you forget it, it's like you've never done it before, and we want to remember that you've done it. So I'm going to complete something called a data task, tells us that we have completed it. And then we can keep redoing the quest as much as we want, whether we've completed it fully or not. And I think this is the basic loop that I'm going to go into. The only thing I haven't mentioned is when we start the quest, which is what happens when we press the M key, then I'm going to show some intro text. I'm going to start the timer, which is what our quest is going to link into. And then each time we complete the task, it will increase the timer, or whenever we call the event dispatcher to drop them off, either way. So that's the plan for today's tutorial. It seems quite long, but I actually think it's going to be easier than it sounds. So I'm going to drop that off to the side so I can see it. And I've been doing some research on the different GTA games on how they work. So on here, you can see on the paramedic missions, when it first starts on San Andreas, you start the mission, it pops up saying paramedic, and then it tells you what to do. I'm thinking both of those we can just draw off the quest, so as soon as you start the quest we can do that. Yeah, so as you pick them up, you get a time increase, and you don't get one as you drop them off. And this is what we need to look for. So let's get straight started. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually go and create our paramedic or medic quest. If you've got your own quest system and you're not using narrative, you should loosely be able to follow along with what we're doing. But if you are using narrative, you stand the best chance. If you don't own a quest system yet, I do highly recommend getting one, because it's going to massively help you make your game, really. So I'm going to jump into my narrative folder, and I'm going to go into my quests. I'm going to create a new folder called minigames. And inside here, I'm just going to create a standard narrative quest, or any quest I'll call it QB, minigame, medic. I'll just call it medic, and I'll open it up. So I'm going to change the quest name to medic, and you could call yours paramedic if you are following the GTA one. I don't need a quest description for it, so I'm okay. Do I want to show the UI? Yeah, I think I'll show the UI. So we come straight in, and this is where we need to add our first task. And this task is just basically going to be a copy and paste of the same thing, but where we change the variables that drive it. So let's actually go and start this task then. And this task is going to be pick up X amount of people and drop them off. Once you've done that cycle, that's it. That completes that task. At any point, if that person dies, the quest fails. So I'm going to come back to my tasks folder in narrative. I'll create a new one for minigames, because this is going to be a generic task that we can reuse it on the quest, but it's going to be very specific to this. Like, if we ever did firefighter missions, it's got nothing to do with dropping people off and picking people up. Police, you have to take them out. It's a generic task, but only for this minigame. So I'll create a new folder called minigames, and I'll create a new task inside here. I'll call it NT for narrative task, and I'll just call it medic level, I think. A task in other quest systems is basically an objective. It's something you need to accomplish. You start the objective, you can complete the objective, or you can fail the objective. So if I come and override the begin task node here, this is where we start building the generic logic we need. So what do we need to do? So the first thing I want to do is I want to pass into this task how many people we need to pick up. So if I take a look online at GTA paramedic missions, so I couldn't actually find any website listing it, and it's probably because it's so obvious. So I asked ChatGPT to do it for me, and it is literally per level, that's how many patients you need to pick up, which is quite odd actually. I thought it was a lot more. It feels like you're doing 24 closer to the end of the game. But yes, so basically, I want to pass in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 to each level. So if we did want to go, you pick up 1 patient, you pick up 3 patients, you pick up 6, 9, 12, whatever we want. We've got the option to do so. So I'm going to pass in a pickups variable, and I will just set it to an integer. I'm going to default it to 1, so we don't ever glitch it out. And that's going to be how many people we need to pick up. And I'm also going to create another variable called remaining pickups. I'll set it to 1 as well, just to stop any glitches. And this is going to be the variable we take down. I am going to come and mark this as private, because we don't actually want to see this in the quest. So what you'll see now is in our quest here, we can actually add this medic level here. And it will allow us to pass in the pickups here. So we can say, 12 on level 12, for instance. So we can also come and neaten this up. So if we come to the class settings, we can actually add some default values to it. So we'll go medic level for the name, for the description, a single level in the medic minigame, and the category I'll just set to minigames. So the first thing we're going to need to do is, we're really going to need to make sure that we've got people spawn. So we'll just create a comment called spawn people, because we don't actually have anything to handle that yet. So that'll be the first stage, where we basically, at the beginning of the task, we go spawn 12 people, spawn 10 people, whatever we need. And then we can update the map, do whatever we need to. The second stage is a binding to those people for when they're picked up and they enter the ambulance. So that'll be like on vehicle enter, on cart enter, something like that. And that can tell us we've actually picked them up. We can now add to our own timer. And then we can take up one of the seats in the cart, which will probably be part of them getting picked up, but it's something we need to take care of. We need to have a drop-off point, somewhere you can go in order to drop them off. That'll be the hospital, the plague doctor, the elven prince, whatever we do. And then only when our remaining pickups equals 0, then we complete the task. And that's going to be the basic logic for this singular task. So let's create some very basic logic for this to work, and then we can improve upon it in future tutorials when we're not just creating the game loop. So we'll work on spawning the people first. So I am just going to come and create a folder inside my blueprints one called minigames. And inside here, I'll just create one for the medic. And this is where we're going to create a test blueprint. This won't be the actual blueprint for now. This is just going to be something that can act like a person, and then in future we'll replace it with a proper person when we actually have them get into the vehicle. So I'm just going to set it to an actor, and I'll just call it BP test, because it is a test, medic, and I'll open this up. So dead simple. All I'm going to do is add a sphere collision, so we can actually run into it nicely. And what I'm going to do is actually make it visible in the game by unticking hidden in game. So now what this means is if we drag this into the world, we can see it, and if I press G to simulate game mode, we can see clearly it's a person. If you've got Narrative Navigator installed, we can also just add a dead basic navigation marker, just so we can see it somewhere on the map, really. And now, if we select our sphere, and on component begin overlap, we'll just check if the other actor that's hit it, we'll just get its class, and we'll just check if that class that's hit it is our cart, like so. Because then that stops the player walking into them, it stops other NPCs, cop cars, whatever we're going to have. If it's true, then it means the medic cart has hit it, and it means we can actually complete the task. So how do we want to do this? Well, we can't actually connect to the task from the overlap directly. Instead, we have to tell this blueprint that we've finished it, and then anything connected to it can understand or listen to that it's been picked up. Or in other words, we need to create an event dispatcher. So I'll name this event dispatcher on medic enter, because I'm trying to think of a generic name. So if we ever do this for the other factions I've got in my game, we don't just have to use a medical cart, it can be anything. Like the elves might use a special kind of flotation device or something. So if I call it on medic enter, it's nice and generic. So I can come and drag this on medic enter out here and simply call it on true. And then I will simply destroy it straight after. Because we've picked it up, essentially they've got in the cart. On the on medic enter, I am going to add an input. So I'll name it pickup, and I'll set it to a type of medic pickup, our test variable, just so when we complete it, we pass back saying I've picked up this actor, because it might be useful. And for the pickup, I'll just type self, like so. So we've now got a dead simple pickup like that. So in theory, if I drag one out and play it, if we run over to it, nothing should happen. Yeah, perfect. But if I get into the medical cart and drive over to it, it should destroy itself. Boom. There we go. So we've essentially picked up a passenger at this point. So how do we actually tell that we've picked this up from the game loop or the minigame loop? So back on our task here, first thing we need to do is spawn the people. So we'll handle complex spawning later, because that is a video in itself. We're just doing a basic loop for now. So what I'm going to do, I'll just drag this down here, is I am simply just going to do a for loop, a standard for loop, not a for each loop. And I'm going to set the first index to 0 and the last index to our pickups, like so. So the difference between a for each loop, which you're probably going to have more used in Unreal, to a for each loop, you pass it something to loop over, like an array of NPCs. A for loop, you simply give it a number to loop over. In our case, the amount we need to pick up. So if we come in, the first index is 0, the last index is 1, it'll run once, in theory. So if we get the loop body, we can now spawn the actor from class, which is our pickup, and we'll do test medic pickup. Where do we want to spawn it? So we'll break the transform. All I'm going to do is just get a random point in bounding box. I'll just say the center is 0, 0, 0 for now, and the half size, so this is the size of the box, I'll set to 100, 100, 100, 100, like so, and I'll connect that to the location. I'll set the Z to 0 as well. So all that's going to do is create a giant box from 0, 0, 0, kind of like this plane, flat, and that's where it'll spawn our pickup, just in there. Eventually we'll have specific spots to spawn them, and we'll make sure it's far enough away from the player so they're not going to instantly pick them up, but for now it's okay. Try to adjust it, so if we are going to collide with another one, it'll try to move it out the way the best it can. It's always a good habit to actually remember everything we've picked up, so I'm going to come and create another private variable called pickup actors, and I'm going to set it to a type of BP test medic, because that's what we're picking up. I'll come and change it to an array, and this means we can now drag the array in and call add to add all of these people to it, like so. So that now should come and spawn all of our people on a loop for how many pickups we've got. So let's give this a basic try. So if I come back to the quest minigame, we'll add our first task back into it. So you can see we've got minigames, medic level. We will say we have to pick up one person, and the required quantity is 1 because we just need to complete this level once. And then the description override I'll just leave as for now. We'll populate that later. So let's compile and save. So how do we actually begin this quest? Well, we've already got all of the keys plugged into it. So if we click our medical cart and edit this, so I'll press Control or Command B and go to our BPA vehicle and go to our medic cart, you can see when we press trigger minigame, it hides the start text and shows minigame started, which is good. But all we need to do after this is get our narrative component and start the quest. So if you're not using narrative, just basically get the quest any way you can and start it. And now we'll come and select our medic minigame like so. So let's give this a go now. We can still spam start it. Narrative will block the quest from being restarted, but for testing now, it's fine. And get into the cart, you'll see we press M, it starts the quest. We've got no details yet, but that's okay. But you'll notice it's not spawned any people, but it has actually done it. If you tap the F8 key, on my demo level, they're below, look. And that is because my plane, or my floor, isn't at 000, so it's kind of off. So I'm just going to recenter that. I'll delete the test one there because we don't need it. And I'll grab the cart, and I'll just come and floor that, like so. And this time, if we start it again, now it's all center aligned, press M, you can see it's now spawned it pretty close to me. I could probably make that bounding box bigger. But you can see now I can come and pick these up, and the basic NPC spawner is working, which is exactly what we need. Like I say, in future, we will massively improve that. We're just temp game for now. So I'm going to come and set this half size to 2000 by 2000, just so we've got a lot more space to play with. There you can see one's there and one's all the way over there, just out of our reach. There we go. We can just get it. That's fine. So yeah, so now have it. And we now have a way to also tell that we've picked it up because we had the event dispatcher here. So when we spawn the actor here, what we can do is now drag off of this and do a sign on, and then we can find our new on medic enter event dispatcher. So we can connect to that. And what this now means is we're not ticking to say, have you been picked up yet? Have you been picked up yet? Have you been picked up yet? We're simply listening. We're creating a listener. And then when this is picked up, this is now shouting, hey, I've been picked up. And then our guy here is listening and goes, hey, I've got you. And that's it. That's how event dispatchers work. They're super simple, but they're so good. They're otherwise called delegates. So if you ever hear that word, you know what it is now. And you'll notice it also is adding multiple at once, even though we've set it to 1. That's just how arrays work in programming. It starts at 0, so ending at 1 means it's got 1 iteration to do. So I'm just going to go and cheat and set the starting index to 1. And you'll notice if we start and pick it up and press M, you'll see that it spawns over there. We can drive straight across and pick it up just like that. So our required quantity is going down, but nothing's updating. So if we come back to the task here, we've already started spawning the people, which is good. We've started binding to when people are picked up, that is good. We haven't done the drop-off time yet, and we haven't took up the seats, but that's something else we can do in a moment. So I'll comment that with spawn pickup, so we've got it for when we need it. So now that we've picked it up and we've decremented it like this, we actually need a place to drop off these pickups. And that is where our drop-off point next part is. These ones down here are sub-tasks of what we needed to do. So the drop-off point is pretty much going to be the same as the test medical pickup. It'll just be a trigger that you go to, and we'll customize it with more FX later. So for now, I'm going to come over to my test medic pickup and press Control B to open it up. I will simply duplicate this with Control or Command D, and I'll call it medic drop off. And I'll open this up. Inside here, exact same thing. We'll have a sphere. We'll change the navigation marker to something different so we can tell the difference. We'll say, what have we got? Important, that'll do. Boom. And we'll set it to like red or something, I don't know. And then we don't actually need to destroy it anymore because we need this to remain until the quest is over. And instead of on medic enter, we'll do on medic drop off. And we'll now simply call. We'll also get rid of the input variable because we don't need it. And we'll just go into on medic drop off like so. And we'll hit compile and save. So now back in our task, underneath all of this, what I'm going to do is add a custom event, and I'll call it bind to drop off, like so. And then I will find all the drop offs that we can access. So if you really pushed it and you managed to run from one island to another island's drop off, we can do that. If you want to make it more specific, it's something we can look at in the future. So I'll just do get all actors of class, and I'll set the class to be our drop off. Then I will simply loop over all these actors, and then I will assign on our drop-off just like we did above, so our delegate or event dispatcher, and say, tell me when you've dropped something off. And then for each time we drop someone off, aka they get out of the van, we need to actually tell narrative that we've dropped somebody off. So what we can use is the default required quantity in here. So the pickups are how many people you need to pick up, and the required quantity is how many people you need to drop off, because the task is 2 stages. You have to pick them up, then you have to drop them off again. I'm going to simply call add progress on here. And all this is going to do is simply tell this task, I have completed 1 instance of you. If we set it to 5 instances, we'll need to complete it 5 times. So just before we start spawning pickups, I'm simply going to call our bind to drop off, like so. But one thing I am going to do is I'm just going to make the bind to drop off a little bit different so we can actually see it. I'll raise it above the floor like that. That'll do. So now, if we come and hard place a drop-off, because we don't want it to dynamically spawn drop-offs, they'll be set locations by us. So I'll place it right there. There's our drop-off point. So if we start it now, and we get into the medical cart, you can see the drop-offs over there. If I press M, it will have spawned a pickup there, so we can go and pick it up. Boom. And then now if we come and drop it off over here at the drop-off point, as soon as we enter it, it should complete the task off. There we go. So because we had a quantity of 1, it successfully completed the task. We can go in and out, but there's no task bound to it at this point. So our framework is shaping up quite nicely now, but there's loads of fixes we can do to it just for now. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to add another level to it just for now. So I'll drag off just so we can actually see that it is working as we do it. And on this one, I'll set the required quantity to 2 and I'll set the pickups to 2. But one thing I'm realising is the required quantity, so how many people we need to drop off, is always going to be the same as the amount you've got to pick up. If you want some leeway where you have to pick up 12 people, but you can afford to kill 2 of them to actually complete the task, then keep these 2 variables separate, because then that lets you say you can spawn 12, but you actually only need to pick up 10. In my game, if you kill anyone, you fail. I just want it like GTA, to be honest. So I'll set both of them to 3, but what I'm going to do is remove the pickups variable and instead use the required quantity, because we don't need 2 variables doing the same thing. So I'm going to delete pickups and just do get required quantity. I'm going to keep the remaining pickups because that needs to track how many people we've picked up. Because we can't complete the task, the task is handling the drop-offs, not the pickups. So now you'll see, if I set the required quantity to 1 and then required quantity to 3, and I compile, as we try it now, when we start the first one, it will spawn the pickup right next to us so we can pick it up. And then if we drag it over to here, boom, it's now spawned 3 more. Look, so we can go and pick them up. So if I pick this one up and pick this one up, and I can come and pick this one up as well, then when I take it back to here, you'll notice something very specific, however. It only updates once, and I have to drive in, out, in, out, in, out to make it work. That is with how our drop-off is working. As soon as we overlap it, so we enter it, it only calls drop-off once. So what we need to do is almost track how many people are inside a vehicle, and then for each person or passenger, we can loop over the drop-off as long as the player is still within the overlap. So, if we come back to our medic cart here, and I'll go to the parent, you see we've got a passengers variable here. Something we added in the previous tutorial. And we use that passengers to track how many people are in it at once. If we select the variable and look at the passengers, as we enter it, I believe it counts us as a passenger as well. Yes, there we go. So the player counts as a passenger, which is totally okay. So what I'm going to do back on our BPA vehicle is I'm going to add a max passengers, and I'll just set it to an integer. And this is going to be how many people can this thing carry. For a cart, we've got the player, who counts as 1, and then we've technically got 4 seats. If we just drag an archer in from some pack, I don't know. If we position her, you can basically, we could probably get 6 in, but I think 6 will be pushing it. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm probably going to just alternate them like that. Because you could probably do 6 and have a more complex one, but I think I'll alternate them like that. So they sit on the edge here, or they lay down, either way. And then that's how many people we can carry. So we actually need 5 passengers in the car. One of them is a driver, and then the rest are passengers, carriers. So I'll set that to 5, at least for the default one. You may have smaller ones where you can carry 1 or 2. So now, back on our drop-off, what we can do is we can add a custom event here called dropoff. And then what we're going to do is every single time we call dropoff, we can basically tell our task to update itself, like so. So what we need to do is decide how are we going to tell now our drop-off that we've dropped multiple people off. You could either have it like GTA where all at once they go bing, everybody out the car at once, or you can make it loop over and go you get out, you get out, you get out. It's up to you. What I'm going to do is just copy GTA on this one. I'm going to make it loop over it. So what we need to do in order to be able to loop over them is we actually need to get access to how many passengers are in the vehicle. We'll then ignore one for the driver. So back on our BPA vehicle, we have an interface here called BPI vehicle. I'm going to open this up and add a new function called getPassengers. And this will simply return an array of passengers, but it'll be a type of pawn, like so. And make sure it'll be an array. Then we can actually tell the passenger later to get out of the vehicle. Back on our BPA vehicle, we can now implement this interface just by double-clicking Get Passengers, and then we can just drag in the passengers like so. Now, back on our other actor, we can drag off and do Get Passengers, and on the true, because it's the cart that's hit it, we can then simply, for each loop over all of this, so just while we're basically setting the framework up, I will just get the class of this character. And I will simply check, does this class equal my player? Which I believe is the BP third person character. We will improve this in the future because I plan to give roles to each passenger. So if some passenger's shooting, we can make them in a specific turret zone. If they're driving, we can set them as a driver and then we can loop over that specific branch. But for now, this will do. And then for each time it's not the player, so false, we can call onMedic dropoff. The only thing we need to do now is actually remove the passengers from it. So back on our BPA vehicles interface again, we'll add one called exit passenger. And we'll give it an input of the passenger that we want to exit, so the pawn. And then back on our BPA vehicle, we'll implement the exit passenger function. We'll then remove it from the passengers. Remove item, and we'll pass in the passenger to it, like so. And then we'll just add a print statement afterwards called passenger get out. And that's where we'll play the animation of them getting out, opening the doors, closing the doors, doing whatever they need to do. So now we've got a way to pick up passengers, we've got a way to drive them across to it, and then as we stand in there, it will loop over and drop all passengers off at once, which we'll call medic drop off on our task here, where it'll loop over and go pick up, pick up, pick up. And then it'll complete the task and we can move on to the next one. So let's give it a go now and see how it handles it. So we'll come over and pick this up. Press M to begin the game. See, it's all the way over there. So we'll come and pick this one up. Click. We do need to show something saying now take it back, but that's fine. We can do that in a moment. And then we drop it off and you'll see it's not done anything. And the reason is we've kind of got some classes a bit mixed up here. So our passengers in a vehicle, rightly so, are a type of pawn. However, our medic pickup is a type of actor. It's not a pawn, so it can't actually be picked up. So I'm going to come and change the parent class of this, of the pickup, to a type of pawn. There we go. And then, when the cart overlaps it, what I'm going to do is, before I call onMedic enter to say we've picked it up, I'm just going to drag this across a bit. And I'm going to drag from the other actor and choose add passenger, like so. It'll say which passenger do you want to pick up, so we'll just say ourselves, because we're now a type of passenger. If it's successful, because that means we've not run out of space or anything, then we can simply come across and call onMedic enter and destroy actor. So this time if we try it, press M to begin the minigame. We've started it, let's go and pick up the passenger. And now if we go and drop them off, there we go. We've now got to the next level. So let's pick up some more passengers. Pick up you. And then, when we pick up the final one, we can come and drop them all off here. And it should complete the task again. There we go. All passengers dropped off. What we can also do, however, is if we just do the first level, and it spawns the next ones, if we just pick up 2 of them, like so, if we go over to here, you'll see the third one will remain and the task will only go up twice because it's only got 3 passengers. So you noticed it picked up 3 even though we picked up 2 passengers. So we need to figure out why it's doing this. Now normally I cut this out of the video, but it's such a key thing for learning to be a good developer, to learn how to debug problems. So I'm going to keep it in. I don't know what's wrong with it currently. So let's have a look. So the first thing I'm going to do is start the medical quest like so. And I'm not going to pick anything up, which is there. I'm actually going to press the Shift F1 key, and I'm going to come and click on the player's cart. So I'm going to scroll down and watch the passengers here. So we've already got 1 passenger, which is completely okay. And I'm going to click back in the game. Shift F1, scroll down. If we've got 1 passenger, we can pick up 5. So I'm going to come and pick up the passenger, and you see it adds test pickup there. That's perfect. So let's drive back over here and see if it removes it. Ah, it didn't remove the passenger. So that'll be why we stacked it up then. So let's go and have a look at our medical drop-off here. Oh, we're not actually removing the passengers, that'll be why. So we check if it's the player, because we don't want to leave the player. Then we need to call remove passengers from here, or exit passengers, did I say. So what I'm going to do is actually promote all this to a function, because it's going to be a lot nicer to handle. So I'll come and collapse the function, and I'll call it drop-off. We'll put this over here. You'll notice it's kind of bodged what it's doing. It does that, but it's easy to fix. So I'll open this up, rename the first actor here to be the medic cart, and then I'll just delete these bottom 2 off because we don't need them. I'll connect this to the medical cart like so. Then, instead of getting the target to get passengers here, I can simply drag off and do get cart now, because we're in a function, which means we don't need to do all of the complex lines that we were doing before. Then exit passenger can now sit over here, just before we call medic drop off. We can just drag the target to be our get cart, so telling the medical cart to exit a specific passenger. The specific passenger we want is this array element here, so I'm going to make some room. I'll promote this array element to a local variable called passenger, and we'll connect it up. This is why I love functions, because we can create variables that only exist in this. It's called a scope. So it's a scope-based variable. You could only exist in here. After this function finishes, that variable disappears, which is really, really useful. And then for the passenger, we can now drag our local variable inside here like so. So you see we've got an error here. We'll just tap it and have a look. It's just that. So Alt-click to clear it off. Compile and save. So let's give it a go now. But what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Shift F1 and click on the medical cart and watch the passengers again, so we can see if it's working. Tap the M key. Let's go pick up the passenger. Click. And now if we come back over to here and drop it off, you should see the passenger disappear. Boom. There we go. It's now disappeared. So if I come and pick up a second passenger, but I'll only pick up this one, if we come back to here, it should only update the task by 1. There we go. So if I pick up another one, it should only update it by 1 again. There we go, passenger dropped off. And if we come and update this one, finally, this should complete the task off. Just like so. If we give it one more try and just drop all 3 off again and just make sure that's still working. There. Let's go and drop it off over here and click. If we collect the other 2 and drop them off at the same time, boom, yeah. So it's all working, we're all good. There's still plenty of FX we have to do, but that's all fine, such as we need to make sure the velocity of the cart is stopped so they can get out. But we have got a basic game loop on the way. We haven't yet added the timer in or anything, but I think at this rate the tutorial is getting a bit long, so we might need to keep that till next lesson. But we have now officially got a simple task we've got, where we can pick up an NPC and it tells us what to do. We can still customize it a bit easier, so if we come and override the get task description, this lets us choose what it's actually going to say at the top left of the screen when we actually pick it up. So we can come and format this here, and we can say medic level, and then if I put curly brace at the end and say level and close it, now what we can do is pass in a level. So if I just add a variable here called level and set it to a type of integer and make it a single variable, we can now pass this into the level here, and it will automatically update our descriptions on the task. This is just a narrative thing, but you can see medic level 0, because I didn't pass it a level, so let's go and pass it level 1, level 2. So we pick this up, you can see we have medic level 1. If we pick up this and drop it off, it will say medic level 2. Next it says medic level 2, and then we have to pick up 3 passengers. So we could actually hide the progress text if we don't want it visible. That is an option. So if we want to hide that, we can just come back to our task and do the get task progress text, and we'll just return blank, really. So it's not going to update anything for the after part of it. It should just be empty, because we're going to take control of this GTA style with another UI. There you go, medic level 2. And of course we can customize this to look however we want eventually. So once I come back over here, there's no progress text, boom, it is fixed, which is perfect. So we've now got it so you can pick up the passengers, and the basic game loop is there, but we need to actually complete it. So what I'm going to do is just go back a little bit, and as soon as you complete level 1, I'm just going to tell it to succeed the quest. That's all I'm going to do. One of these succeeding the quests is actually going to be a custom event called Complete Narrative Data Task. A data task, for people who aren't using narrative, is a different type of quest objective you can complete. They're like these string-based objectives that you can complete any way you want, and it lets you track how many of them are done. In this case, we're going to complete a data task of a type of minigame. So I'm going to come to my narrative data tasks folder. I'm going to create a new data task called dt_minigame. I'll open it up. I'll just populate it with some basic details. Minigame name, minigame. Yep, that's all good. And then back on our quest. So I'll complete the task of minigame, and I'll set the argument to be medic, like so. So what this means is, even though we've completed the quest, we've completed the data task, which is basically our achievement. We've got another thing saying you've completed it. But what this means we can now do is also forget this quest. So if I come and choose add an event of forget quest to forget the medic quest, in narrative, this might be different for other quest systems. This quest can only exist once. Whether you've completed it or it's in progress, if you failed it, you can redo it. But an active quest can only exist once. So if we want a quest where we can loop it, we need to tell it with a data task, which is permanent, that we've completed it, which is this one here. Load any perks we need later or any stats. And then the forget quest means we can start it again. So you'll see if I start it now and press M, it'll say quest started, and I have to pick up the passenger here. When that text fades away, if I press M again, it won't start the minigame again because the quest is already active. So I need a way to tell it to forget the quest. However, if I complete this task here and it says quest succeeded, look, it's now completed the data task and forgot the quest, meaning if I press M again, it starts the quest again because that's what we're doing. So the quest itself is a temporary memory thing. The data task is the permanent one because the data task is still complete. So, what are our fail conditions? Well, we have a timer, which we'll look into getting in next time because we can do the UI and everything. But if we get out of the vehicle and the quest's active, we need to fail it. Or at least start a timer, but we'll fail it for now. So I'm going to go back to the medical cart, and if we unpossess it, we remove the medical UI from it. But if I get the narrative component and do is quest in progress, pass in our quest class of our medic minigame, if it is in progress, it means we're actively using the quest at that time. So I will drag this narrative component over here. I will call getQuestInstance, which will get the current quest that we're on in memory. So the only single one we can have. From here, I can then tell it to enter a state, which is going to be in here how we handle failures. So I'm going to come in and create a random state called fail the quest. And on this one, I will just put you exited the vehicle. And I'll set the quest state to QS_medic minigame_exit vehicle. There we go. So if I copy that name, compile and save, what we can do now is when we exit the vehicle, we can tell it to go to that specific state. And it's as simple as dragging off and doing get state. Passing the ID, boom. That's a bit messy, but it does work. There we go. So that's how we now fail the mission, basically. I don't think Oh no, we should have failed text. Ah, there we go. We just need to connect the quest instance to it as well, so it does need to be back there like so. We can also add this to the quest if we want to, which is something we might tidy up later, but for now it's okay. So if we start the game, can we get in the cart? Yep. Can we get out of the cart? Yep. So if we get back into it and press M, we've started the quest, but if I press enter, the quest has now been failed. We've failed the quest because we got out the cart. So we've obviously got some cleanup to do, because when we failed, it didn't destroy all the bits we didn't need anymore, and that's okay. So what we can do is, back on our task here, we've got plenty of functions that are already built in for us. So on task completed is when we successfully complete it. End task is when we end the task whether we've failed it or not, which is exactly what we need. So on end task, what do we want to do? Well, the first thing I want to do is unbind to all the drop-offs that we've bound to. So I'm going to grab these get all actors of our drop-offs and the for each loop. I'm going to paste it down here. And instead of bind onto medic drop-off, I'm simply going to do unbind medic drop-off, but make sure you only click unbind event, not all events. Because if you've got other events connected to it for other missions, you don't want to interfere with them. So I'll just connect that up to there. Is find all of our picked up actors here, which is the variable we created earlier. On the completed of this, because we don't want to do it on the same loop, I'm just going to for each over all of them. And it kind of depends what you can want to do. You can either destroy them, you can tell their AI to turn into walking away, or you can apply damage. I'm not sure what you'll want to do. Until we get some proper AI set up for it, I'm just going to call destroy actors, which should successfully clean everything up. And we've got the drop-off point, we've got that one as well. So we bind to the drop-off, which is what we've cleared up. We then spawn all our people, which is what we've destroyed. Yeah, I think we're good. We don't need to unbind from the passenger because we're destroying them. There's no need. The destroy will handle the unbind. The only other thing we need to do is on failed. We basically need to do the same events as here, except we don't need the data task. We just simply need to forget the quest, so we can restart it. So you'll see if I come now and pick it up, press M to start, you will see it starts there. If I get out, it fails the quest. Everything's despawned. If I get back in and press M again, the quest restarts and the pickup is there. Ladies and gentlemen, that is part 1 of the game loop. There we go. Passenger get out. We've successfully completed the data task. How cool is that, ladies and gentlemen? So this was a long one, but this is the core of the game. The mini-game, should I say. So it was a good one to keep it going all at once. In the next tutorial, we're going to start adding more to it and fleshing it out. So we're going to add the timer. So when you start the quest, you have a set time in order to complete that specific. If you pick up a passenger, we will increase the time. And then if you run out of time, it will fail the quest. If you succeed, then we can just clear the timer and be done with it. We'll also look at adding more information prompts. So when we start the quest, it says pick up the people. And then our quest, our medic minigame is coming along very nicely. Thanks for watching, ladies and gentlemen. If you would like to see some of these videos up early, I believe I'm a month in advance at the time of recording of videos, so you've got 4, 5, 6 videos to go and watch. Please consider supporting me on Patreon to see those videos. Thank you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Any issues, please let me know below. If you need me to go over anything else, please let me know below and I will try my best. Thank you for watching. My name is Decryption and I will see you next time.